Alright, let's make another video. Just went shopping. It's Erev Shabbos. You know, I'm not much one for editing my videos. Just it's a stream of conscience. Sometimes I have a basic idea what I want to talk about. Sometimes I have no idea what I want to talk about. I just start filming and see what comes out. And sometimes those are the best videos. You know, like I made that video about one of us. I didn't think anybody would care about that video. It got 8,000 views. I made the video about John Kerry some time ago. Same thing. Got like 7,000 views, something, maybe 8,000 by now. I'm not sure. And then some of the videos I think are better still don't get these great amount of views. You know, I really don't think that One of Us video was such a good video, to be honest, but it managed to be in Vecker magazine. So I'm happy I got my Gemaras today because you know, if for a weekday I could learn on the phone, you know, but Shabbos I don't use the phone except for emergencies. Even though there could be discussions as to whether or not it's permitted, but it's good to be machmir. You know, and that's the standard position of all the Hamashiach. But on the other hand, we probably shouldn't go and say that someone who uses the phone on Shabbos, Mechal Shabbos. You know, if you really study the halachas and everything behind it, different opinions, there are, for sure it's not something that would have gotten stoned over. You know, because you couldn't put your finger down on what malacha exactly it is. Now, the shvus, the thing about shvus is that you have to have a Sanhedrin to declare something to be an Isser. So how could something that's brand new be covered under a pre-existing, halacha? Well, there's discussions about this and that, but it's the same question. I'm going to say it like this. You know, there are many people who will say that the question of using electric lights for Shabbos and for Hanukkah candles. Now, most of us don't do that. However, in certain situations, you're not allowed to light candles, or someone in the hospital, this or that, So what can we do? Can we use electric, this and that? And again, there are different opinions. Opinions would go like this. Generally, the way it's understood with Shabbos candles and Hanukkah candles would be like this. And the same question is Havdalah candle also. And there are actually three separate dinim when it comes to these questions. So when it comes to Shabbos candles, generally speaking, was the generally accepted opinion is that electric is totally fine for Shabbos candles, because the purpose of the Shabbos candles are just that you should have light in the house, so you shouldn't be stumbling around in the dark. The whole question as to whether or not we make a bracha on Shabbos candles is a minhag that we do so, but we're chazal masakin such a bracha. We don't see it mentioned in Chazal to make a bracha on Shabbos candles, but we do it. And a lot of brachas that we make that we don't have, in our records of Chazal, a makor for such a bracha. But of course, there is an Indian of Torah Shabbal Peh that not everything was written down, and even things that were written down may have been lost. And so it's a machloikis. But Shabbos candles and Yom Tov candles of those three would be the most obvious that you can use electric lights for, because there's nothing really special about the Shabbos candles. It's just that you should have light in the house. You shouldn't be stumbling around in the dark. In the old days they didn't have electric lights, and now we do. And really there's no purpose in lighting candles like we light today and make a bracha. You can make a bracha on electric lights. It's just that This is how we fear zich. That being said, let's say you do want to, there's a few things we could talk about when it comes to Shabbos candles because of this. One thing with the Shabbos candles we could say is if you're away somewhere, you're not allowed to light candles. Like we said, in a hotel or in a what do you call it, a hospital. For sure you could rely on the electric lights. Or you want to just light a little candle, stam like a zecher, next to the Shabbos candles and make the bracha on that. And the candle maybe is only going to last 20 minutes or something, like a Hanukkah candle or something that you want to use. Or the tiny little tea lights. They last for a half hour, 40 minutes. And you don't want to have to worry about a fire hazard or something, or getting in trouble. Isn't the hate? You're good with that. The same thing, we light these extra candles. People have been hugging to light more candles. Same thing, you could light one candle that's going to last longer, and the rest, it could be little ones that don't last as long. Nothing wrong with that. Bissel weiter with the Indian of the Shabbos candles and the Yontiv candles especially is, can you even really make the bracha on the Shabbos candles with the lights are on and so forth? Now Shabbos candles generally say, yeah, you're including it and make the bracha at the end and so forth, and so it's not, according to Ashkenazim, even though it's not really the halacha like that, and it's wrong, really, Mehikar, what the Ashkenazim do is wrong, to make the bracha after. Really, the Sfardim are right that you should make the bracha before you light the Shabbos candles. This is how we have a Masorah, and someone has a Masorah should follow the Masorah's Avos to a certain extent. Not if it's something that's mamish wrong, but this is something that they don't look at the candles, and so the Yontiv is a big issue, because with the Yontiv we have like this. I heard that Rabbi Hershel Schechter from YU actually fears sich like this, that the second day Yontiv, right, we light the candles, right, from pre-existing flame and so forth. How are you allowed? You're not allowed to do a malacha on Yontiv that serves no purpose. How are you allowed to light candles on Yontiv if we have electric lights that are already on? So Hershel Schechter, he has a chumro. I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but it should be cognizant that there is such a musig, there is such a concept, that his chumra is that he insists to have the electric lights on Yontiv on a timer, and that they should be off during the time when the Yontiv lights are being lit on the second day Yontiv, because if not, then I heard this from Rabbi Blech from what's the name of the shul there in the Bronx? Something called Jewish Center. What's the name of the neighborhood? The Riverdale Jewish Center. Rabbi Blech. He said like this, that he heard from Rav Hershel Schechter like this, that he will not allow in his family to light the Yontiv lights, second day Yontiv, unless the lights are off. The electric lights are off and the timer, and then they go back on after you light the Yontiv. See, plan ahead like that. I don't have timers in my house, so I don't have such a thing. But that's how he, and he has a big point in that, because what are you lighting these candles for? What purpose does it serve? All right, it creates an ambiance. Maybe that could be how we could be more heter. That bisman hazeh we have such a thing to light the Yontiv lights on the second day Yontiv. That it creates the ambiance of Yontiv. If that's the case, you should really be lighting by the day meals on Yontiv also to create an ambiance, because you're allowed to do it. At night maybe it's more of an ambiance. Let's go a little weiter. So what about the Hanukkah candles? What I was always told with Hanukkah candles is that Hanukkah candles have to be individual candles, and they cannot be bringing in from another source. Meaning, in the old days, before we had electric lights in America and other countries, there were gas lights that had gas being pumped in from the central station to the homes, and people could turn on the lamp in their home from the gas, open up the gas and light it, and that would be fine for a Shabbos candle. But for Yontiv it's not, and so the same thing, to plug in an electric menorah, you don't have all of the fuel there. However, theoretically, if you have a battery, maybe it's even better you have batteries for each individual light, or even you don't have a battery-powered menorah, but you have a flashlight, and you're in a situation, a hospital or something where you can't. So the flashlight, you should be able to make a bracha on the flashlight. Plug-in menorah or not, mistama, although maybe yes, maybe no, but it seems like that. And also a question of whether or not the lamps that we use, what kind of lights, what kind of flashlight, an LED, does that count? Or only incandescent, because the incandescent is more similar to fire, to the point where there are poskim that hold the incandescent lights are mamish fire, mamish eish, that an incandescent light produces light and heat, and it has a wick, the filament is a wick. And so they say, Yitzchak Khan Inspector, I believe it was, or maybe it was the other gadol from Linta. I'm drawing a blank now. I'm not feeling very well today. If someone remembers, it was one Mamish Rosh Kabbalah Hagol the Rash Gahab in Lita in the time. Either of Yitzchak Elchanan or it was Chaim Moiser. Chaim Moiser, I think it was. I'm not sure. One of them, and it could be both of them, I don't remember. They held that incandescent lights are mamish eish, and so it would be Isser D'Oraisa. And to the point where I don't remember if it was Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan or Chaim Moiser, they would actually make Havdalah, let's say Shabbos, B'davka, with an incandescent light, just to show that they hold that has a din of Eish. And you can make a bracha, B'rei Maraya Eish, on an incandescent light bulb. Because I know some people, in the early 20th century, late 19th century, there were Erl Chiyidin who held that electricity was mutter, and even that incandescent lights were mutter, that they were permitted. The minhag became throughout Klal Yisrael to aser it, but in the early days it was mutter, and even like by the Taimaner there was such a musag like that to be matter lights, to be matter all kinds of electricity, and the overwhelming consensus became that electricity was aser for one of many various reasons. So my personal feeling is as follows: that incandescent lights are similar enough to Eish that one should be machmir, whether it's midaraisa or midarabanan. I don't see any tzad heter, unless you're mamish a talmid of one of these rabbanim who were matter these things. And maybe if you follow everything like their psak, like that, you know, and you're not just picking and choosing. But in general, there's enough what to say when it comes to the incandescent lights. They shouldn't be used. When it comes to other forms of electricity, we know that the Chazon Ish held there's Isser D'Oraisa of oneg, of all electricity. But it's very deichik to say like that. As much as we have respect for the Chazon Ish, I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, but come on, nobody paskins like the Chazon Ish. on many other issues that the Chazon Ish passes on, and so it's safe to say that he was a das yochid, and so therefore, when it comes to using telephones, especially the old-fashioned telephones, there's even more what to say that they're probably only also is uvdin dechol. And so too, all of these things could be considered uvdin dechol. But if you're learning Torah from them and so forth, well, just what to discuss. But that being said, it's a thing that is worthwhile to be machmir on. But on the other hand, you could say that someone who is mekel probably doesn't have a din of Mechal Shabbos, meaning that they take Shabbos seriously. They don't do any of the lamates malachas, and they don't violate anything that's clearly Isur D'Rabbanan. But these things that are modern new things, and we kind of demonstrate that by generally using real candles for Shabbos candles, for Hanukkah candles, Yantiv candles, Havdalah candles, that we use real fire and we don't use electricity. Essentially, we're demonstrating that that's actually the halacha. That we don't that we don't hold that these things are, even though it's not an exact sushtel, because just because we are machmir on this side doesn't mean that we're makel on the other side necessarily. But in a sense, we're showing that Hanach Lem Yisrael and Nevi'im Heim B'nei Nevi'im Heim, that there is what to say for people who are makel, even though there's not that many people like that. But there has been an issue in the past few years with teenagers who text on Shabbos or maybe use their phones, and there's this new thing with a few years ago they were talking about an app that would make it mutter to use the phone on Shabbos. And on one hand, it's not a type of thing that one should be doing, but if one does it, there's also what to say that it's not the end of the world. That's not the worst thing to do. And however, we have to learn something in any event. And why am I saying all this? Not that people should be lenient in these matters, just opposite. I saw a beautiful Dvar Torah from the Kalav Rebbe Shlita this week about, he told the story of the old Baron Rothschild, not his children, they all went off the derech, and they're a lot of very evil people, but the old Baron Rothschild, Reb Anshel was an Erlich Yid, and he had other, Reb Wolf was also an Erlich, was a Shomer Shabbos, and Baron Wolf Rothschild, there was a Rebbe by his house, a Parsa of a Rebbe was by his house Shabbos, and after Shabbos he got 3 telegrams. One came Friday night, one came Shabbos morning, and one came about Shabbos Mincha time. And it was from the Russian government. He had invested some money in telegraph wires, and he was having a hard time finding anyone to share the expense. And in the end, he found the Russians they sent a telegraph from St. Petersburg to Frankfurt, where Baron lived, and he didn't answer it because it was Shabbos. And then once Shabbos passed, so then he answered, and he saw the first one said a certain amount of money, and they didn't hear back, so then maybe he wants more money. The second one was more money, and then the third one was more money. Now he could have probably made a deal with a Gentile to be Shabbos guy, and to do his business for him on Shabbos, but he wanted to be machmir. He wanted to go above and beyond the call of duty and say no. He's not going to answer anything on Shabbos, even by a goy, even have someone else do it for him. And because of that, he wound up making more money. And there's a big lesson, because people think they're going to work on Shabbos, or even they keep Shabbos, but they're going to talk about their business, think about their business, be worried about it. They think they're going to make more money. In the end, they're going to lose money, as far as Kedoshim say. However, if one has oneg Shabbos, and a chelik of oneg Shabbos, Shulchan Aruch brings, the Kalvar Rebbe Shlita brings this, is that you should feel like all your work is done and not think about work. Just focus on enjoying Shabbos and being happy and feel like, oh, this is the best day in the world. Then we know that whatever you spend with oneg Shabbos is blessed. So it's not just money you spend buying food and drink, which is good, which you got to do, covered Shabbos. But more than that, the money that you quote unquote spend of oneg Shabbos could also include that you're not thinking about your business, you're not engaged in business. You feel like all your work is done, so it's all on the side. So now God's going to bless you with even more money, because you're not thinking about business on Shabbos. And we see all the time in halacha, there's a musag of hamachmir tovel of bracha, that if you're strict about something, you're going to be blessed. And so that is why I'm saying all these things. That to say me'ikar hadin, all these things are permitted. But you go by a strict opinion, the merit that you have of following a strict opinion is that you're blessed, and also in this world. And so that's why I'm saying like this, that the fact that we're machmir, the fact that we're strict and we don't use electricity on Shabbos, and we don't do all these things on Shabbos, even though maybe there might be permission, you might be able to find some opinion in halacha that says it's okay. But despite that, we're strict and we don't do it anyway. And with other things that Jews tend to be strict on, hamachmir tovel of bracha, sure, it's not the halacha, you don't have to be strict like this, perhaps, although really, most likely you do. There's enough what to say that you probably do have to be, but we could probably be lenient on those who don't. But the fact that we're machmir, the fact that we're strict, it brings blessings into our lives. Spiritual blessings, material blessings, all kinds of blessings. It makes our life much better. And one thing I have to say about chumros, I remember hearing from Yaakov Meir Shechter Shlita, it's not to get depressed when we don't keep our chumros. That's another aspect of knowing what's chumrah and what's halacha. That we should have simcha, because sometimes we can't keep a chumrah. And then we can have a simcha that we're doing our best. And we should never get depressed or despondent when we're not keeping a chumrah. That's the danger of chumras. But the blessing of chumras is, the fact is, most of Klal Yisrael, I'm saying the real Klal Yisrael, the frum people who care about Torah mitzvahs. I don't mean just people who had Jewish ancestry, but they're heretics. That's not part of Klal Yisrael. But the real Klal Yisrael, and that includes, not everybody who's a little bit lenient is a heretic. There are many fine, pious Jews, believing Jews, who are lenient on certain things, but justifiably so. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real heretics, real Sonei Adas, real enemies of the of the faith. Those are not part of Klal Yisrael. But the people who try their best and they believe in the Torah and so forth, and maybe they're lenient on certain things, those are not heretics. Just because someone relies on a more lenient opinion doesn't make them a heretic. Could make slippery slope arguments, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, most frum people today keep glatt kosher, even though it's a chumrah. Most frum people today don't eat gelatin. Even modern Orthodox don't eat gelatin. Ashkenazim in America especially, they don't eat gelatin. Even though, most likely the halacha is you're allowed to eat gelatin. But they're strict. And it's a good thing. Hamachmir tavei leihem bracha. Machmir Tavil of bracha, the fact that we're strict about these things, even though perhaps there are what to discuss that you could be lenient, same thing you could talk about. Wearing a yarmulke, covering a hair, different gidreit sneas and so forth, that there are different opinions about many of these things. And you could be lenient, and we can try to be melamed zchus on those who are lenient, but we should be happy that we are machmir. We should recognize the chumrah, not disparage those who are more lenient, but also reap the benefits and the blessings of being strict. And it's a beautiful, lovely, good thing to be strict, and there's nothing wrong with it. And it brings blessings into our lives, and that's what we see. Like in the parsha, they thought, oh, they're gonna go pick manna on Shabbos, and like the Calvary Rebbe said, they couldn't stop thinking about their parnasa. They're gonna go look for manna on Shabbos, even though Moses told them there's not gonna be any manna. Think about that. That's the whole message of the manna. People, they say the Parshas Aman, we have to live Parshas Aman, to recognize that all these things come from God, and God's the one who decides everything. You can't play tricks on God. He just wants to teach us to have faith, like we spoke about yesterday, and that's a very powerful thing. So it should be gebenched, and we should embrace the beauty of Shabbos. Ki Shabbos hayom echlu hayom, ki Shabbos hayom hayom l'Hashem Elokecha. The mitzvah of oneg Shabbos that we learned this week, which includes the Shabbos candles, which includes eating 3 meals on Shabbos. It's very important to eat all 3 Shabbos meals. And we'll have a malka as well. Zayin gebenched, stark, and have a wonderful, good, and blessed Shabbos. Thank you.